of Tim Miller's daughter, Laura, is one of 4 that turned up in this League City field between 1983 and 1991.
Why don't we want to solve this? This is a big deal here.
It was kind of a Wild West. There was a lot of good old boys type stuff going on.
I invented drive-by shootings in Dickinson, Texas. Yes, I fought Clyde Hedrick.
Wrong place, wrong time, you know, run into the devil sometimes.
Now we really have a reason for this to be called the damn killing fields. It was crazy. I don't know if I really can't even put my finger on all the emotions that I was going through.
I have very, very fond memories of being with her. My grandfather was the last person to see her. And she was, bye, Daddy. She had helped him cut a limb off a tree. She climbed the tree for him that day and cut the limb down and helped him work in his garden. So they hung out all day together that day. And he told her that, you know, I'm gonna go home and I'll be at Josie's tomorrow. She just said, I'm going to the store, I'm gonna get a ride. It wasn't uncommon.
But your dad was like, no, I'll take you, nothing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You want to ride? No, Dad, I got it. She was spotted using that phone at the convenience store, according to the clerk. I mean, but all the details were fuzzy back then. There was no surveillance cameras. There wasn't anybody paying attention. She was a regular, so I don't think she stood out that day in any particular way, except she knew the clerk. She saw her on the phone. It was right before Halloween, and we were at my grandparents' house because we always went over there for the holidays. And I remember my mother snapping and saying, how can you even think about Halloween when we haven't heard from Heide? I think we were just grasping at trying to have some level of normalcy because my grandparents were so distraught. I mean, they were just beside themselves with worry. I'm Nina Yeager, and I'm Heide's niece, the first victim of the killing fields in Lake City, Texas. she said, if anything ever happens to me, go to the League City Police because I have friends there. And unfortunately, that didn't seem to be the truth.
They think that maybe she just ran off with somebody.
Well, that's what they wanted to tell us. She didn't want to be found. She's an adult. She just went missing on her own. And she didn't want us looking for her. Don't put out flyers. Don't go to the media. That was a big one.
Why?
You know, Robert, if I had the answer to that, it would be amazing. As you can imagine, I mean, it fractured us. It was something missing after that. Not just her physically, but just the light in my grandparents' eyes. It's like it got snuffed out when they found her remains. There was no hope of her coming back. And she had a beautiful 5-year-old daughter that they had to soldier up and, take care of. But nothing was ever the same. Holidays, Christmas, Easter, around when she was found, her birthday was April 30th. It was never the same again after that, and I wonder how differently all of our lives would have been.
September 10th, 1984, and I'll never ever forget that day. I was getting ready to walk out the door to go Calder Drive and Main Street. She worked on Calder Shop Center, and Laura said, "Dad, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Sure, sis, what's on your mind?" And she said, "Is it okay if Vernon comes over tonight?" Which Vernon was Laura's boyfriend. And I said, "I believe that'd be a good idea." We just moved in this house from Dickinson. Tim Miller, Laura Miller's father, and also founder, director of Texas EquuSearch. And of course, the day you move in, your phone wasn't hooked up. It normally took 3 or 4 days way back then. There was actually a pay phone at a convenience store right at the end of 517 and Hobbs Road, which is maybe a half mile away from the house. So I said, "But when Mom comes home for her lunch break, have her take you down to the payphone and call Vernon and say, Dad says it's okay to come over." So anyhow, her mother took her there, and Laura's talking on the phone and stuff, and I guess her mom says, "Laura, hurry up, I'm gonna be late going back to work." And Laura says, "Mom, I just want to talk to Vernon a little bit longer." And she said, "All right, be careful, see when I get home." Well, Laura's mom got home, and Laura wasn't there, and of course she was concerned. We thought there for a moment that maybe Vernon got there a little bit early and the kids were out walking, because they'd say, walk and walk and walk. Oh my God, the kids walked a lot. Then we got a knock on the door, and it was Vern. And we said, "Where's Laura?" And he said, "Well, I don't know. She said I could come over." We panicked at that moment, but again, not to the point that I think Laura was murdered. Laura had a seizure problem. She had to be on her medication twice a day, and we said, "Oh my God," she was walking back from the store. She had a seizure. Somebody took her to the hospital. So we went to Clear Lake Hospital, we went to St. John's Hospital, and no Laura. The next morning, we reported her missing in the League City Police Department. And you know what? I'm not out to slander police departments, but I'm just going to tell the truth. And when I reported her missing, I'll never forget this. Detective literally rolled his eyes at me. And he said, well, you know, y'all just moved from Dickinson to League City. Laura just turned 16. You know, that's a age when they run away. And I said, well, even if that's the case, Laura's in trouble because she has to have her medication twice a day or she'll go into seizures. 2 days later, our phone got hooked up, went back to League City Police Department, and I said, listen, nobody's seen Laura. Here's our phone number. I said, now I'm really, really concerned. I said, because 5-6 months ago, the body was found somewhere off of Calder Drive. I said, this is a small town, this stuff doesn't happen. I said, would you please tell me where the property's at or please search it? Same detective. And he said, yeah, that girl Heidi, she worked at a bar. Somebody took her out after the bar closed to have sex. She did give up sex. They murdered her, threw her out. Isolated incident. I'll never forget the words. Isolated incident. And they said, don't talk to Heidi's parents because they're trying to get over Heidi's death. Go home, wait by your phone. Laura's going to be calling. So I went to the police department the next week. Went to the next week, went to the next week. The job went to hell. And, you know, life just started turning into shambles.
We got a call from the dispatcher that said that two kids on dirt bikes found what they thought was possibly a deceased person. When I got to the scene, I knew immediately it was a human. You know, I could smell the decomposition. Robert Valentine, I'm a former League City police officer. I could tell it was a female, long, dark hair, auburn hair, and I didn't want to get that close, and I just wanted to, again, back off, but I knew what it was, and it was kind of eerie because I'm looking around and I'm wondering what else is out here. I notified the dispatcher and asked for Tom, the other officer, to come by the scene, and when he did, we started securing the location, and there was a point where we just kind of scattered, moved out a wider area. I saw what I thought was possibly some remains, but I wasn't sure because they were in the brush. And I'm looking, and about that time, Tom called out he had found a skull. And I thought, oh, this is another one. What do we got here? I think both of us were somewhat taken back, like we weren't expecting this. We were just looking for evidence from the original victim. And boom, we found the second one. And there we backed off and said, okay, that's it. We're not going to touch anything else. Who would have done this? Who came out here? It had to be someone who knew the area or someone who frequented that area, possibly. It was a muddy dirt road at that time that came to a dead end, if you will. Once you passed the scene where the bodies were, part of the oil fields that were still out there. A lot of people would dump trash. Unless you would have gone out there quite often or maybe knew that area, you wouldn't know where it was going. So the thoughts were, we got to secure the scene. We have to make sure that nothing else is disturbed and go forward. We knew at that time, Tom and I were talking, we knew at that time that there had also been another homicide out there previously, and that was Heide Fye. And I remember looking at the scene and where the three bodies were, it was almost like a direct line, if you will. And I thought that was a little odd. So at that point, we contacted CID. The scene was somewhat secure, but not secured as you would hoped it would have been. That was somewhat disappointing, because here we have 2 bodies now, and they were going to do it the next day. And we had no authority to start doing anything, and we definitely weren't going to touch the scene. I remember we were out there and it was getting dark, and there was really nothing being done. They had someone securing the scene. It was a volunteer person, with League City.
Did they at least rope it off with the crime scene tape? Not even crime scene tape?
When I left, there was no crime scene tape up. There was a person sitting in the lawn chair securing the scene. That was pretty much it.
Reading the Houston Post back then, and on the second page it said remains of 2 females found in field in League City. We kept reading the article and it said same field Heide Fye was found in. So we actually took that newspaper to League City Police to say, is there any chance one of these girls could be our daughter? And they did not even have a missing person report on Laura. They just knew she ran away. So then they asked us for some of Laura's clothes, winter clothes, so they could do hair samples. And then they asked us who her dentist was, and we got dental x-rays. And then 3 days later, they called us. We went in there and they said, yes, one of them girls is your daughter, Laura. And I thought at that time that if they would have listened to me, if they would have came out here and searched, they would have found Laura's body. She would have been dead, but there may have been some damn evidence. My emotions went just everywhere. Why wouldn't they listen? You know what, I would go out there where Laura's body was found, and I would search this damn property. I wanted to find her little cross around her neck. I wanted to find her clothes. I felt it's obvious there's got to be more bodies out here. I just got obsessed with this damn place.
She was a very distinctive looking young lady, if you will. And I say that because what I noticed right away was a gap between her teeth. And I thought, someone's got to know this girl.
Audrey was always really good about calling her mother on Christmas. She never missed calling her on her birthday. Well, Christmas came and she didn't call. Her mother's birthday is in January 12th, and she didn't get a call. She loved her family. She was very loving towards her family. It was just like she had died that moment. Even though she'd been dead that long and I'd been looking for her all that time. I'm Shirley Love. I am Audrey Cook's sister-in-law. she was a daddy's girl. And by the time I came on the scene, she was tomboy. Her dad, they camped, and she liked to go fishing with her dad. She had a motorcycle, dirt bike. She moved to California and was out there for quite some time, maybe a couple of years. And then they came back to Memphis and stayed for a very short period of time. And then that was when they moved to Houston.
She did move with someone.
Yes.
She had a partner.
Yes.
Do you know why she left?
Memphis?
Mm-hmm.
Better life, better job. Yeah, there just wasn't anything in Memphis that she wanted to do. And she has a very adventurous spirit. And so she wanted to see other places, and do things that she never did.
How'd she settle in Houston?
I really don't know. She would call her mother quite often, but she would call a lot of times wanting money. And of course, her mother would always come through for her against her daddy's approval. Her daddy would always say, "You tell her that I will send her a plane ticket when she's ready to come home and get her life together." So the last communication that she had with her mother was to call for money. Earlier in the week, she had called and she had sent her money, and she'd tell her always to call me when you get it, would wire it. Mm-hmm. And she did. And then later in the same week, she called again, wanting more money. And her mother sent her money again. And she says, "Now you call me when you get it." And she didn't call. When her mother kept not hearing from her, she sent a registered letter to her last address, so she would have to sign for it. And it came back. In 1984 is when he was diagnosed with leukemia. So, and she knew that he was sick, and she was in Houston. And in some of the letters, she would ask her mom, "Well, how's Philip doing?" When he died in 87, it was like, where is she? I mean, we still can't find her to notify her that her brother has died. About a year after that, it was like something is really, it really got under my skin. And her mother, I mean, I loved her mother. She loved me like I was theirs. And I could see what it was doing to her. I mean, she'd lost her son. She had no idea where her daughter was.
How was the dad?
He stayed busy.
But that was a way of coping.
Yes. They couldn't talk about it much between them. She kept pushing him, to go down there and look for her, try to find her. He says, if she wants to come home, she will. Still not giving a clue that there would be anything that bad. Probably by 89, I had about decided that she had assumed somebody else's identity. She was a Jane Doe somewhere, or she had left the country. Because I had looked high and low for what I could do, the means that I had. I never gave up. I never gave up. When the internet came along, it's no telling. I had my office set up right in there. And sometimes at 1:30 and 2 o'clock in the morning, I would be in there on dial-up, searching, looking. I still had hope of finding where she was and contacting her and whatever the problem was to fix it and bring her home. And let her know, that everybody loved her. When I moved her mother out of Memphis to a nursing home close to me so that I could take care of her, we had to clean out the house. And one of the little cedar jewelry box things about that big, I opened it and there was all of Audrey's letters. I was really excited when I found them, simply because I could look at the postmarks, what she was talking about, maybe names that she was, so I could find her. Oh, every address that was on an envelope, I Googled it. I felt like so many times I was so close. I just needed to look a little further. And then I would just, Shirley, you gotta let it go. And I would give up for a little while. Then something would come back and eat at me again, and I would get back on the internet. The detective, I gave her partner's name. I had all the research and stuff that I had done, like where her mail was forwarded. She found Audrey and her partner, she said they had broken up because of the lifestyle that Audrey had chosen to be in with the drugs and stuff that, she had left. So Audrey wasn't with her anymore. Her mom passed away in 2008. Her dad passed away in 2012.
So they never knew she was found?
No. I always looked in hopes of finding her for them. Of course, I didn't want it to be that way. The way that she was, I wanted to find her and that she would come home. Not in a box.
I would say that she liked to have fun, that's for sure. We did a lot of board games like backgammon, canasta, that kind of thing. The other thing she loved to do was fish and crab. And I've said that time and time again because it was just a really, really peaceful pastime for her. Whether that would be on the Sabine River on the bank or on Pleasure Island or on the seawall, you could find her there.
Hi, I'm Diane Gottswin. I am Donna Prudhomme's sister.
She loved Janis Joplin, and that was her time. We came up where ZZ Top and Janis Joplin were coming up. The other thing that was the most important would be her children. And that's kind of hard to say.
How many children did Donna have?
She had two. Chad and Brad. They were 12 and 16.
When she disappeared?
When she disappeared. I stayed at Donna's a lot. I babysat my other siblings' kids, you know, but all through high school and all of that, you know, I spent a lot of time with her.
When had you last seen Donna?
Well, you know, this was a different time.
Of course.
There wasn't technology. There were letters written and things like that. You know, the collect call once in a while, that kind of thing. Her entire life, she's been in the Golden Triangle. It wasn't until she moved to Austin, and I want to say it was in 85, 86 time. 87 is when she mailed my mother a picture of her and the boys from Thanksgiving, and they were all very happy. That's what we thought. We thought she was doing well, you know, and she was doing well. But unfortunately, she relapsed. And that's when she brought the boys to Louisiana to their paternal grandparents. So that's where they lived, in Ville Platte, Louisiana. My mother died September of 88, and Donna did not make it in for the funeral. So 89, she went to see the boys, and then she came to see me. A couple of weeks later, I had worked for a dentist for 8 years, and she knew my number to work. And she called me for her birth certificate because she was going to go on vacation to Mexico.
Why do you put it in quotes?
Vacation, because we never saw her again. Like, I didn't know if she died in Mexico. All those years, we had nightmares that we don't know. We didn't know where she was, right? So that was the last contact with her, was mailing her birth certificate to Bay Area Boulevard, Clear Lake, Texas. And I remember that like it was yesterday. I know when she was moved to Clear Lake, she was moving with friends. I don't know. But she was moving with friends to start a new life. That's what we were left with. There were decades and days and months and nights of nightmares. And fear. My biggest regrets is that my children had to watch me grieve this so much. And I did my best for them not to know and see it, you know, but definitely they did. Chad was in a MVA in 1999, July 1999, and it left him paralyzed from the waist down and the left side, and cognitive impairment pretty seriously. So he was in and out of nursing homes for a decade, and I was his caregiver, overseer. All Chad ever asked for was to find his mama. Even when I say it, I can see him. So whenever we would get there and walk in, he would always say, "Hey, Diane, you find my mama yet?" You know, because Cajun talk really fast, you know, and say, "No, baby, I haven't." So that was really sad to watch, you know, a grown man needing his mother. Fast forward to 2008, he had to have his legs amputated, and his last wish was to find his mother. I was living in Austin, and so I had already had detectives had looked for her off and on over the years, but what was important this time is that I went and spoke with a local investigator that's also the editor of the Examiner newspaper, named Don Dodd. I told him the story, and he looked for any aliases there may have been. There wasn't any Brown hair, brown-eyed, missing unidentified women in databases or anything like that. And about 2 weeks later, I went to meet with him, and he said, there's not a trace. There's not a trace. And you have two choices. You can believe that she's remarried and living a good life somewhere, or she's no longer with us. And I said, well, I will never believe that she's having a good life without her children, because she lived for them. That was 2008. And that's also when we lost Chad. So he passed away that year. After that point, I had to put it to rest for my own well-being, for my own mental health. And so for me, she was gone. One of the girls came and said, Miss Diane, your phone's going off, because it was in the office charging. And when I went to go get it, it was my cousin. There was 3 missed calls, I think, and call ASAP. So when I did, I thought maybe something happened to my uncle or my aunt, totally out of nowhere. She said, I just got off the phone with a Detective Tisdale from the League City Police Department. And then I knew what that was. So, my legs fell out, All those years of searching and all of that she was around the corner, basically. She wasn't with us, but she was just that close. I'm going to speak for Brad right now because he can't. He's not here, but I know what he said. He knows she didn't abandon them. So even though this is a tragic, tragic thing, for him, he knew that his mama loved him. She didn't just walk out of their lives.
Forensic genealogy is a fairly new tool in the law enforcement field. It's where you use DNA, but not in the traditional sense. My name is Richard Renison. I'm a retired special agent with the FBI. League City refused FBI's offer to use forensic genealogy to identify what was then Jane and Janet Doe, Audrey and Donna. And it was about 1.5 years that I kept asking for them to use this technique, and they were skeptical of it, didn't want to do it. I think that they wanted to be the ones to find their identity without having to use outside help, so they could say, hey, we solved this. I think there was some of that. Because when the other DNA company hit the brick wall, that's when they said, okay, we'll let you do it. "45 minutes to get Donna identified. The next day, we worked on Audrey Cook. It took 1 hour. And they had been unidentified for 20 plus years, and it took 1 hour and 45 minutes to get them both done. That's a fantastic tool. Part that still bothers me a little bit is Donna's boyfriend or husband at the time that she went missing passed away about 3 or 4 months before we got Donna identified. And had we been able to use this technique 18 months earlier, we could have got a wealth of information. So I'm still a little upset about League City for not using that tool.
The investigation now is hopefully going to just take a whole new turn.
League City Police Lieutenant Michael Buffington says advances in DNA in genealogical research finally led investigators to identifying Cook and Prudhomme decades after their bodies were discovered. Interviews with family helped police find out how the women made it to this area. Now, the public's help is needed in piecing together the last year to year and a half of their lives.
Any little information they have, regardless how small it is, it could mean a lot to us. So I don't want anybody to think that, oh, it probably doesn't mean anything, so I'm not going to call. You know, knowing who Jane and Janet Doe were, that gives us two entirely subsets of people to go interview to find out commonalities between all the victims, and we just haven't hit that pot of gold yet. That's going to be the aha moment for the case.
Did that surprise you?
It did. I really thought that once they were identified, that was going to be the final piece to the puzzle, and it hasn't been.
When Donna's body was found, which of course was Janet Doe at that time, it was like, now we really have a reason for this to be called the damned killing fields.